Fine. So we had mention of this Mishnah earlier in the sugya where I spoke about if you have to hear. Thank you. If you have to hear the neder, if a husband has to hear the neder in order to the mortgage, he came out with a machlo. Stop it over there. I brought down this Mishnah. All Mishnah. From the during we come to if husband says to a wife, all the Nedarim that you're gonna vow from now until I come back from a certain place, you're going on a business trip. So until I come back, if you make any neder, I rein kayamin. He wants to affirm the Nedarim even before she made them. So lo maklum. It's not a kiyum. It means when he comes back and when he eventually hears about it, he could be made for it because the kiyum that he did is not a kiyum. Doesn't say why. The Mishnah doesn't say why. The Gemara doesn't say why. The Rishonim talk about possible reasons. The Rosh says the reason is because he himself doesn't really mean it. When he says he's Mekayim all the Nedarim, and he doesn't even know what she said, what she's going to say. And when she says it, it could be that he didn't mean this. Like he didn't mean that. So he didn't mean to be Mekayim such a thing. So it's considered a kiyum b'tos. It's considered a mistake. There might be other reasons, but that's the Rosh's explanation. The reason why a kiyum is not good without having known what it is, because it might be a mistake. And the kiyum b'tos is not. In general, husbands don't want their wives to make a neder, and therefore the next subject about mufer, who doesn't have that problem, that if he would have known, he would have not been made for it. Minastam, he doesn't want a neder. So to say that he's Mekayim it, so we say if you don't know what it is, you can't be Mekayim it. You don't know what it's going to be. But a rein mufar does not have that problem, and that's going to be the issue now. Could he be made for the Nedarim before they happen? Still machlokes. Everybody holds to be Mekayim it before the fact. He cannot, and machlokes is if he could be made for it before the fact. He's made for all the Nedarim before they even happen. Or Rabbi says he may, and when it happens, it's mufar. Doesn't work. He can't be made for it until it happens. And the Gemara before spoke about even after it happens, maybe even have to hear about it also. That's another question. Rabbi Lezer now is going to prove his side that it is possible to be made for a neder before she made it. If it's possible to nullify a neder after it happened already, after it became asa, is it not possible to be made for the neder before it happened? So I would use a mashal. I think it's maybe a nice mashal. Maybe it's not going to work the whole time. But medicine in refuah, it's what do they say that prevention is easier than the cure. So if he could cure the problem, surely he could prevent it. If after it became a neder, it's possible to nullify it. So surely if it didn't even come into existence, it's possible to stop it, to nip it in the bud, to stop it, and that it shouldn't happen. That's what it seems to say. We'll see the Gemara a little bit more detail about that. But that's the kal v'chomer. If it's possible for him to nullify neder, which already came into play of prohibiting, so surely he could be made for it that it shouldn't. That if it did not yet come, she didn't make a neder yet. Surely he could nullify it. Amulo, the Rabbanan say it seems that the Rabbanan agree to the logic, but they say it's a pasuk. And the Gemara is going to talk about this also. That even though the logic makes sense, but it comes from a different angle. Her husband has the right to affirm it. Her husband has the right to nullify it. And the pasuk is makish. The pasuk compares both of them together in the same sentence. The husband could affirm it. The husband can nullify it. So it's one category. Only something which can be affirmed could be nullified, but something which cannot be affirmed cannot be nullified. Then over here, everybody agrees that he cannot affirm it before the fact. So it's Peter, why don't say that he cannot nullify it before the fact? It is interesting, I think, because the only reason why, the way the Rosh says, the only reason why he can't affirm it is a technicality, because he doesn't know what it is, and if he would know, maybe it's only technicality that he doesn't know what she's going to say, but it's not inherent. And here we're making a hekish to the afara. I would have said that this is a technicality that he can't be making kindness before, because he himself was going to make a mistake. He doesn't mean to make something he doesn't know. He's going to find out what it is. He would have been not have been happy, or not be happy to make. So I'm a little puzzled by the hekish of the Rabbanan, but that's what the Mishnah says, that there's a drasha to say that you only could be made for a neder which you could be mekayim, since this neder you cannot be mekayim before it happens. Also, you cannot be made before it happens. So just to sum up the Mishnah, everybody holds you cannot be mekayim a neder before it happened. And the whole, if you could be made for it, Rabbi Lezer says yes. Kal v'chomer, if you could cure it, surely you could prevent it. And the Rabbanan say no. The pasuk says you only could be made for a neder which you could be mekayim. So therefore, since this is not cannot be mekayim, it cannot be made for. The Gemara goes in Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer is the one who says that it could be made for a neder before you hear about it. and we called it preventing. I called it preventing. You're preventing it. But the Gemara has a question. The Gemara has two studies of how to understand that you are able to nullify before it happens. What do you accomplish? That it shouldn't happen at all, or the first thought is that it happens, but as soon as it happens, as soon as it comes into existence, right away it becomes nullified. You put the nullification on hold, and before it happens, before she makes a neder, as soon as she makes a neder, and as it takes effect, and automatically it becomes bottle because you already nullified it before. But it does take effect. Second side, it doesn't even take effect. It doesn't happen at all. Again, back to the muscle of medicine. That somebody's I'd like to find. I don't know if my muscle is good. You have to correct me. But just for the muscles, if someone's going to take antibiotics before they got sick, before the disease, so it's possible on one hand that when the disease is going to come, the antibiotics is there ready, so it's going to be able to kill it right away.
I know an example of people go and have a teeth for. Very often there's infections, so they take antibiotics before they go. My wife,
you saying they have infection
before they even go. No, they have because when you're opening up the mouth,
the infection is going to happen.
The infection is going to come from.
You know for sure it's going to happen infection. So you give the antibiotics before, and then the question is, then the person as soon as the infection is going to set in, there is going to be an infection. Then it's going to kill it, or it causes that the infection shouldn't come in the first place. It shouldn't happen. That's since there's already the cure is there before, so it prevents it from even happening. So those are the two stuff. According to Rabbanan, you're not able to be made for, but according to Rabbanan, you are able to be made for. How does it work? Does it work that the neder is going to take effect for a second? As soon as it takes effect, it gets nullified, or it works so well that it prevents it completely. That the neder doesn't take effect at all. What's the nafkamina? If anyway it gets moved, what's the difference? There's no time lapse. Even according to the first time that it did take effect, immediately it got nullified. So what's the difference if it took effect or not? The Gemara has a nafkamina, lamai nafkamina, hamud beis, kigon, the atfis achmina ba'dei nidra. There's somebody else also latched on to this neder. We had a couple of times that a person could make a neder by just latching on to somebody else's. The woman made a neder, whatever she said, I ran in a zero, the example they give, and somebody says vani. Vani is a husband. No, it doesn't have to be.
That was the example we had.
It doesn't have to be. It could be somebody that might be an affirmation. But talking about not the husband, somebody else said that she became a Nazir and a zero, and he says, me too. So and here the case was that the husband had already a standing hafara waiting. The husband, before she even made the neder, the husband had nullified it. The husband said, any neder you're going to make from here until I come back. He went away for a business trip, and he nullified it before he left. And according to Beliezer, he has the ability to do that. So if the way it works is that when she makes the neder, it takes effect. So the person who latched onto a real neder. Then hers got nullified right away, but his did not. If it took effect and then it gets nullified, so the tfisa is a tfisa, it took on, and the other person became a nazir because he latched onto her nazir, which did take effect. Right away, hers got nullified, but it did take effect. So then this tfisa is a tfisa, it's a hatfasa. But if it doesn't take effect at all, so she never became a nazira. So the person who tried to be matvis, to be latched onto her naziras, didn't work because she didn't make any naziras. So we have two studies in Abu Lazar. What's the shot in Abu Lazar? Again, the Rabbanan say that the Farah doesn't work. It doesn't work. It wasn't that far at all. According to Abu Lazar, it does work. The question is if it works after the neder schal, as soon as it takes effect for a second, right away it's mufar, or it doesn't take effect at all. Tashma. So first, the more things is a proof from our own Mishnah. This is a quote from our Mishnah. That was Rabbi Lezer's Kabul Homer. If the husband is able to nullify neder which already took effect, isn't he able to nullify neder which did not take effect? So doesn't that sound like it did not take effect? Doesn't that sound like it doesn't take effect? That's the Kabul Homer. It also wouldn't be a Kabul Homer. If he's able to nullify a neder which already exists, he's surely able to nullify neder the shalom bo. So the word thinks it means that it should not take effect. That it should not take effect. So that means that it doesn't take effect at all. That's a right to one of the two choices. You see it that it doesn't take effect at all. The Gemara says no, it doesn't say that necessarily. It doesn't say that it's not going to come into effect. It says it did not yet come into effect. It means the husband is placing the afara before it took effect. That's true, because the woman didn't even make a neder yet. But that doesn't mean that when she does make a neder, it doesn't mean that it doesn't take effect. It could mean that it does take effect, and right away it goes off. The kal vachomer is still going to be good. Like the case of the antibiotics, if somebody's mom is sick already, really sick, so then he could take this medicine, and take this remedy, and he'll get healed. Kal vachomer, that if he takes the medication before, so as soon as the infection is going to come, it'll take effect. This also will take effect maybe, but surely the medicine which is there before is stronger and it's able to remedy. So the Gemara says that it's not muchach in the words of the Mishnah that it doesn't take effect. It could be also takes effect, but since the hafara is already standing and waiting to grab the neder as soon as it comes, that's a kal vachomer. If he could even after the neder had taken full hold, the hafara is able to knock it down. So kal vachomer, if the hafara was waiting for the neder to happen, as soon as it happens, it's going to get nullified. So the Gemara doesn't see a proof in the words of the Mishnah how Rabbi Eliezer is working. Is it that it doesn't take effect at all, or it takes effect and it gets swallowed up right away? It gets nullified right away. So the Gemara goes further to look for different proofs. What does Rabbi Eliezer hold? Lashma, this is from a brisa. It says an aside from a Tosefta, and a little different nusach than our Mishnah said. Also, Rabbi Eliezer is going to say that it could be made for a neder before it happens, but he's bringing a different logic over here to prove that it's possible to make for a neder before she made it. You hold that you can't nullify a neder before it happens. Maybe just to help out with commas over here, but made for nidri asmo achalo yadu.
Made for what? Made for nidri. It's not achalo yadu.
I'll explain in a second. That's how to read it. Welcome made for nidri asmo for mishetador shetidor enodin shel for nidri ishto achalo tido. So what does it mean? He's making a kal vachomer from a person's self. Can a person make for his own neder? A person made a neder, and then he says, "I want to just undo it." Could a person not have Torah Shlita, not going to the Chacham? He just wants to undo his neder. Could a person do that to himself? No. Can he declare before he makes a neder, any neder that I'm going to make should be butter?
Yeah, sure.
How do you know that?
That's right. Could you learn it from the?
I don't know where you learn it from, but
the father, the husband who bottled his wife's Nedarim.
that's no, he can't. They can make for his wife, and they can't make for his own neder. That's what he said. He can't make for his own neder.
No,
but he notified his own neder before he made it.
I
think we learned this last.
thought you said that we once in his life he can say in any news.
Right. So the Gemara says before on the Chok Yemod Rosh Hashanah, of course, to get up on Rosh Hashanah, we do it on maybe Erev Rosh Hashanah, or we do it on Yom Kippur, depends on what the nusach is, and we say that Yom Kippurim Hazeh, the Yom Kippurim Abba Leinu L'Tova. Some say that, some don't say that. But if that's the case, so you're saying that I'm nullifying all, and also in Erev Rosh Hashanah, you do Ataras L'Dam at the end of that, after the Rabbanim, they matir, Mutalach, and then you say, have any roast in Madalach Nechem, Shekol, Neder, She'odo, Me'ayom, Od. So a person is Mivatal the Nedarim before the fact. And the Gemara looks at it, I don't know, the Gemara here seems to say, how does it work? Anybody have any idea? What's the lumdus? How does it work that a person is made for his own Nedarim, it stops his own Nedarim? I got confused over here. Does anybody have a shot? How is it possible?
Yes, the psychological thing. A lot of things we said about the netters is that people are emotionally worked up and they say it and they're sorry afterwards.
That's matin. That's going to be a matin. He goes to the Chachamim and he says, I didn't mean it, I was under pressure, whatever, I didn't mean it. That's kind of Batoras Nedarim. How do you work when a person is going to?
I know that I have an anger problem and I may say something that I regret, that I will regret later. So right now, with Akila, I want to cover my base.
So how do you do that? What gives you the authority? So that's the question. So we take it for granted because we always do it on every Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. And how does it work? The Gemara said before that it works, and here the Gemara says that it works. It's very interesting. What is the lumdus? How does it work? So just leaving out the lumdus here, it seems to say that it's a kind of afora. It's a kind of and the question is how you know it from. Where do you learn such a thing?
It has to be as strong of a far as the Nedarim.
It works. It's able to knock it down.
Yeah.
It knocks down. So and one makes a kal vachomer.
Afar means that it never happened.
No, afara means that he's able to nullify it.
No.
Okay,
I thought we said Hatara was.
Hatara is, I'm not sure what you're saying. Hatara means to undo it retroactively.
Oh.
And Hatara means like husband, when a husband is made for a wife's neder, it's only mufa from the time that he hears about it. And it doesn't go back retroactively. If she was over, if she transgressed her own net, the husband didn't hear about it for a month. Then on the day that he hears about it, he nullifies it. It's only nullified from now
She's
on.
still
Whatever she
over.
did, she did in Avera.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, here it says that the person on his own, can he make for his nether after the fact? No, a person cannot make for his own nether after the fact. Can he make for his nether before the fact? Yes. Then what does it say how we know it? That's a given. That if a person can make for his own nether before the fact, he cannot make for it after the fact. Can a person make for his wife's nether after the fact? Yes, that's what Afar is. So Kavachomer, he could be made for it before the fact. That's what Beles is Kavachomer. A person on his own, that he cannot be made for his own Nedarim after he made it, after the fact. A person cannot be made for his own Nedarim after the fact, but he could be made for his own Nedarim before the fact. So his wife that he can be made for even after the fact, surely he can be made for it before the fact.
We don't know what she's gonna say.
He's made for it even if he doesn't know. He says, I don't like Nedarim, no Neder. You don't eat apples, don't eat apples. Don't make any. He says, I don't want any Nedarim. Any Neder you're gonna make is hereby nullified. So can he do it? So Rabbi Lezer says he can, because if he's able to be made for Nedarim after the fact, surely he's able to be made for Nedarim before the fact. That's what Rabbi Lezer is called. Now, what does it want me to say? When a person is nullifies his Nedarim before the fact, does when he makes another afterwards, does it take effect and go off, or it doesn't take effect at all? Oh,
When he does it.
when a person on his own, he nullifies his own Nedarim before the fact. Every Yom Kippur, he says, Yom Kippurim Zad Yom Kippurim Shabbat Lein L'Tova. Any nether that I make should not take effect. Does it take effect? And all the map doesn't take effect at all. So the Gemara is saying, if he's comparing, if there was a source of learning out this halacha of his wife, it's from his own nether, the same way about his own nether doesn't take effect at all. So also his wife nether doesn't take effect at all. My love, dishto, don't be delayed. Doesn't even to say that his wife's nether is similar to his own nether. Mahu, the low highland, just like by his own is pashat. When a person makes a model beforehand that my nedarim should be batel, it means it doesn't take effect at all. So also his wife's, if that's what they're learning out that his wife is better than him. If his own he could nullify before the fact, so surely his wife's he could, and by his own he's able to do it in a way that when he does it in a way that it doesn't take effect at all. So also his wife's doesn't take effect at all. So the Gemara thinks this is a good proof that Rabbi Lezer holds that when a person is made for his wife's nether before the fact, it doesn't take effect at all. But the Gemara is not impressed. No, not necessarily. Each one in his own way. Even though the husband, when he makes up on his own Nedarim, it doesn't take effect at all. Not necessarily doesn't mean to say that when his wife's nether is made for before, that it doesn't take effect. Maybe it takes effect and it goes off right away. The Gemara doesn't explain here. They need some explanation how can you do that. And they were trying to talk about it. If the whole source you're learning out from is the husband, so learn out everything that it shouldn't take effect at all. The Gemara is happy with this. We still don't see what Rabbi Lezer holds, that it doesn't take effect, or maybe it takes effect and it right away automatically gets kufa. We still don't know. The Gemara goes further to try to figure out what Rabbi Lezer holds. Does it not take effect at all, or does it take effect and get nullified? Tashma, Amul Rabbi Lezer, Oma Mikva Shema Lesat Meimitumasan, Ein Masalala Tor Militame. So the rest of the words of the page are a little bit difficult. So if we may, just jump to the Rosh's Gersa on the bottom, it seems. Look at the Rosh over here. Sorry for that smudge.
Is going to say Tashma, or what's going to say?
1 second.
Afani?
Make it simple. Gersa, Afani Avibal. 4 words over here. Afani Avibal. And the rest of the page, not to be govers, if that's okay, more or less. So you go back to the Gemara. What does the Gemara say? I'm just going to take out these words, if that's okay. All these words go out.
What's the meaning of the
So I too can learn how to husband. So let's go to the words now. A mikvah. If something's tummy and it puts it into the mikvah, it becomes tahor? Yeah. Mikvah, something tummy goes into the mikvah, it's mutaharit, right? That's kikure the tumah. Can the mikvah prevent the tumah? Go to the mikvah, and now you come out, you say, I'm tumah proof.
Tumah proof.
So there's no such thing.
Tumor resistant.
The mikvah can take off after the fact, but it can't prevent before the fact. Even though you might think whatever could cure, surely could prevent. But it's not so.
Antibiotic.
Sometimes it works, but not always.
Yeah,
not always.
Not the
Yeah,
antibiotics. Sometimes the lumdus works. Sometimes the
Oh,
lumdus
yeah,
doesn't
I
work.
understand.
Yeah, it doesn't work. even though by medicine it does work, maybe, but,
And maybe with medicine, it also doesn't work.
okay, that's a question for Dr.
What-
Klein.
what
No,
doesn't work?
But he says that by a tumor, you see that a mikvah can cure the tumor, but it can't prevent the tumor. Or even a little bit stronger, even if the person's in a mikvah and he holds on to a sheretz. Does the mikvah stop him from becoming tummy? No. It only takes off the tumor after he's tummy. He can take off the tumor, but it doesn't prevent. So, just like a mikvah, which is able to purify a tummy from its tumor, but it's not able to prevent the Torah from becoming tummy. So too, what was the Russian's gears over there? Afani Avibal, husband also, that the husband, even though we know that he could be made for a nether of his wife after the nether is already there, he could cure the nether. That doesn't necessarily mean that he could prevent it. That's what Rabbanan said to Rabbi Lazar. Shmamina lo chaylen. According to this, you see that Rabbi Lazar held that it doesn't take effect. If the Rabbanan brought this as a mushal to attack Rabbi Lazar, that means they knew what Rabbi Lazar held. Rabbi Lazar held that it does stop it from taking effect, and they said it's not a proof because you see that a mikvah doesn't stop it from taking effect, the tumah. So you don't have a proof, even though he had a nice lumdus that whatever could cure it could prevent. It's not true and prevents from taking effect. That's what they want to see. Since Rabbanan brought a case of a mikvah, which the issue is if it prevents it from taking effect, no one's going to think. Not the Havamina was not that the flea when it becomes tamei, since he went to the mikvah yesterday, so he'll become tamei and right away become torah. That's not what the words say. The words say that it's masalala, it's ein masalala tahorim milli tamei. The words say that the mikvah doesn't help just because even though the mikvah helps that when a person is tamei, the mikvah cures the tumah, but it doesn't help that the Torah should not become tamei. Those words are mamish ala Torah milli tamei. The issue is, does it stop it from becoming tamei? So the parallel to that would be that does it stop the neder from taking effect? So Shramina, if that's Rabbanan are trying to prove to Rabbi Lazar, that Rabbi Lazar held that Afara does stop the neder from taking effect, he made Afara before the fact. So Rabbi Lazar held that if it could cure it, if it could if it could nullify the neder which already took effect, it surely could stop it from taking effect. And that's Rabbanan say, no, you see that a mikvah is not like that. Even though a mikvah can cure, it cannot prevent. So you see that's what we're talking about. The law that we're talking about is that it should not take effect at all. So we see that Rabbi Lazar held that it doesn't take effect at all. But the Gemara continues and says the Brisa says something else also. In the Sefer, I didn't see the Brisa inside. It seems to be that the Rabbanan told him two things, and that's going to be the nusach. What did the Rabbanan tell Rabbi Lazar? The first guess was that the mikvah does not prevent the tamei from becoming toho, from becoming tamei. A person went to the mikvah, and then he thinks that he's tamei proof, and the tumah cannot make him tamei. So it says, no, it's not true. It doesn't stop from becoming tamei. So you see that the lumdus is that he shouldn't have become tamei. The nether shouldn't take effect. But the Gersa in the Tosefta, it seems, has another taina that the Rabbanan said to Rabbi Lazar. Amullah Rabbi Lazar, in madbilan kli tamei li toher, yadbilu kli lekeshe yitamei li toher. Here they said the same thing, but they said in different words. They said it's true that you could be you could immerse a kli in the mikvah after it's tamei to become tahor. But does the tefillah help that when it becomes tamei, it should become tahor? Means it's the same thing as before, but it did use a little different nuance. Before they said that the mikvah doesn't help to make him tamei proof, that he shouldn't become tamei.
After.
He went to the mikvah, and then is he now say prevented from becoming tamei?
I don't see the
That the tumah shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So that was the first nusach. This is a little different. Does the mikvah help? Then after he comes out of the mikvah and he's going to touch tumah and become tamei, then automatically the tumah should go off.
Oh.
So this is not much the same. That's the question we're talking about. When a husband is made for the nether before, does it cause that the nether of the wife should not take effect at all, or that it happens for a second right away it gets okay? So in these two nuschos, this is the question. The Rabbanan in the first nusach, they addressed the possibility that it should not take effect at all, and they said, you see, a mikvah doesn't do that. A mikvah doesn't help him that it shouldn't become tamei. And the second version, they said it doesn't help him that when he becomes tamei, that the tumah should go off automatically or instantly. So.
This is not a tumah Torah. This is a declaration. The declaration is a different power.
How do you know?
I'm telling you. I mean, everybody knows that the spoken word of a person changes worlds.
The mikvah also changes.
No,
words.
no.
It changed
Only
the tumah
changes
to
tamei to tahor.
That's what we're talking
change tahor to tamei. I mean, tahor to tahor. You only change tama tahor to tahor at the moment that you in the mikvah, not
So-
after.
So Nedarim also, the nullification only happens after you nullify it.
So we don't have a proof.
I don't see a comparison.
You don't have you don't have a proof. The Gemara is not, the Gemara is saying you cannot bring a proof. Put it this way. But Elazar brought a proof that the Kal V'chomer, if it could cure, it could prevent. I could talk about medicine also. I could talk about medicines that, but let's say medicines also, if you can cure, surely you could prevent. And he brings something else in the world that not everything that cures could prevent. So it does make a difference if it's tumah or it's neder, or we'll have some other cases coming up also. Elazar went with as far. If it could cure, surely it could prevent. Prevent in one of two ways: either prevent that it shouldn't happen at all, or that it prevent that as soon as it happens, it automatically should go away. So we're saying that not necessarily we see things in the world, all kinds of subjects, 5 different subjects. We see that some things they could cure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they could prevent before the fact. So maybe Afar is also the same thing. So what does the Gemara see in this version? We have 2 versions. The first version said that Rebbe Elazar's far would have been that it doesn't take effect at all. The second version says that it would have taken effect, it would have gone off right away. So what was Rebbe Elazar's svara? Third line, Amri. So they said, so you see, have a contradiction in the Rabbanan themselves. Amrulo, in the first Amrulo, they said that you see a mikvah doesn't stop him from becoming tamei, and the second version said the mikvah doesn't help him, that as soon as he becomes tamei, he becomes torah. So the answer is the Rabbanan who are arguing on Rebbe Elazar, they themselves didn't know what Rebbe Elazar held. The Rabbanan l'kaimi lahom the time of the Rebbe Elazar, the Rabbanan, the Bar Plukta, how do you say Bar Plukta? The opponents of Rebbe Elazar, they themselves did not know what Rebbe Elazar meant.
He said both.
He said
But it says the sefer, so it means he said it both
not he,
ways.
the Rabbanan, Amrulo, 2 Amrulos.
Oh, they said.
They said to him,
Oh, I
they
see.
were disproving him in 1 or 2 versions. Why? Because they weren't sure what he meant. If you hold this, so I'm going to ask you a question in this version.
I'll
If
just
you say
prove it,
that, the mikvah doesn't help not to prevent the tumah from
yeah.
happening.
So they
The
didn't
mikvah
know,
doesn't.
okay.
So they themselves didn't know. Rabbanan came along the time of Rebbe Elazar. The Rabbanan, the opponents of Rebbe Elazar, didn't know what he held. This is what they meant to say. My svirullah, what do you hold? If you meant to say that the neder of the wife, after the husband was made for first, and then the woman made a neder, that it takes effect and automatically becomes bata, that's what you hold. So to have a clean shifter, this bride said, then we'll answer you from the top of the page that if you put a clean mikvah, it doesn't help. Then after it became tummy, that when it becomes tummy, it should become Torah right away. It's not true. It doesn't happen like that.
What the kli will to you to now?
This is on the top line. Imtak bilu kli tummy litoher, yat bilu kli likishay tummy litoher. Does putting the mikvah into the kli help that when it becomes tummy, it's automatically going to become Torah? It doesn't help. So you see, so too, don't tell me that the husband safara, just because it helps afterwards to take it off, so too is going to help that when the net is chal, it's going to go off. No, it doesn't work like that. And ilos of the chaylan, if you hold that it doesn't become, it's not chal at all, have you mikvah tiftach. So the first version is the correct version, that a mikvah doesn't help, that it shouldn't become in the first place. The truth is that both things are the same thing. We're talking about a clean the mikvah. What's the difference? One. It's so strange that the Gemara here calls it. Let's find something over here that it calls it kli. Kli is this case over here. Kli is matbil and
The
kli.
wording more than the kli.
It's not a question of the kli or mikvah. And here's mikvah tifta.
Yeah.
There's no difference in the kli
What
and
it has to
mikvah.
do with it is lick
Likashe yitame, or
me litame.
right, beautiful.
Those are
beautiful.
really-
That's right. There's nothing to do. So I think, let's make it
That's the
simple.
way to
that-
identify.
Right, very
patients.
nice. Yeah, that's what I would have said. It's just a way to identify the 2 ways that they were spoken in the brisa, but there's no difference. Both of them is a kli and a mikvah. And the question is, after the kli goes into the mikvah, does it help it to prevent tumah? Does it help it that when it becomes tummy, it should become tar? So there's no real difference in the 2. The Rush is bothered by the difference in this terminology, and he has a different shot altogether, but and different girsa because of that. But just to leave it simple, I think that it's readable simple. Without besides this nuance of kli and mikvah, let's just identify which brisa we're talking about. But both of them mean the same.
It's the same reference.
It's maybe the
I
safer.
thought like
safer.
ration and safer.
Ration
Should
and
have said
safer.
ration and safer.
Yes, right, yeah, okay, but it said already what the pircha was. So it comes out that the Rabbanan themselves who are arguing the Rabbanan, they don't know what he means. We had a question, and the Rabbanan also they didn't know what they said. So they said, whatever you hold, mikvah shows that mikvah with a kli shows that it's not true. Because if you put a kli into a mikvah, if the kli is tamei, the mikvah accomplishes that it should become Torah. But if it was Torah, it doesn't help that from now it shouldn't become tamei, or that when it becomes tamei, it should become Torah.
Right, the difference is that he's on the door and from now and on to whatever, he's.
He's not being Vatal, he's Vatal his
Maybe-
wife's nether. He's being Vatal his wife's
I
nether.
thought he was talking about his own right.
No, we're talking about the wife's nether. We're talking about being Vatal, being made for a wife's nether before she made the nether.
So what's the now?
So now we said.
Yeah,
it.
for-
If
was that
from
somebody-
it was on, what's the?
So the more said in the beginning, I feel it would be if somebody was matfis. That's the beginning of Amud Beis. If we turn back the top of the Amud Beis before the more said the Mainaf Kamina on the bottom of the Amud Aleph, and it said, Kigon the Atfis Achrina. Right, the bottom of the turn the page.
Keep going.
Kigon the Atfis Achrina about Daniel. That somebody else seized on and said Va'ani. She made an edda, and somebody else said me too. And she has the
Oh, that's
hanging.
enough for me.
She has that's not.
Did it
really-
really-
Did it take
really-
effect?
If it did, then that guy,
That guy is Nazir. If that was the case, so then she said Aveni Nazira, and he said Vani. Hers right away goes off because she has a standing Hafar hovering on top of her. And as soon as she
he's a
says,
Nazir.
and he's a
He's
Nazir.
a Nazir.
But if you say that hovering Hafar meant that it prevented from
was
her becoming
nothing,
an,
then he
then
said
he's also
nothing.
that right?
Okay, very good.
But
Thank
the question is, how much power did the Chazal give to the Baal to make her his wife's net? That's
The
all-
Torah,
that's
the
all
Torah,
question.
the Torah, the Torah.
It's Torah and Halacha. Right, so that's the question. There's this things that even as a preventative for the future.
Why does he think so?
Well, I'm trying to say that because he knows his wife's teva and she's gonna make him crazy with all kinds
Yeah,
of
that's not the
stories.
question. Question
I'm
was,
just saying, in
that's not
such a
the
case-
subject. The subject is he has the authority to be made for another before it happens. So the question is, can he do this? Torah says he does have the authority to be made for it after that happens. Because does he have the authority to do it before it
It all
happens?
depends on what the kavana.
No, it depends if he has the power to do it. Yes, he wants
Yeah,
to
but
do
who-
it. Does he have the power to do it?
It could work either way.
No, we don't know. That's what we're talking about.
I'm
Does it-
saying, so I understand Rabbi Eliezer in that he says, yes, he says that the power in his speech, preempting his wife's Yetzer.
How do you know? Maybe
What does that mean? I don't know. I'm just saying, in such a case that.
we're trying to
might-
figure out what Rebbe Lezer says. So you can't just say, this is what he said. We're trying to figure out, what does he say?
Be- be-
He learned that from a Kal V'chomer. He says how he knows, a Kal V'chomer. And we have to figure out from his Kal V'chomer. There are two ways he could have said it. He could have said that the husband's afara is preventative and it doesn't even allow the nether to take place, or it's hovering above, and as soon as it takes place, right away it eats it up. That's another way Rebbe Lezer might have meant. Rebbe Lezer might have meant that the husband has a right to make afara before in a way that it's right there, and as soon as this bug is going to happen, the nether is going to come right away, it's going to swallow it up. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it never happens. It could be that it happens and right away it gets taken care of.
Oh, so
I
the
think
two ways, I saw the two. right.
those are the two ways that the Gemara is asking the whole time. That's the number aleph that it says here. It says it's highlighted over here in the yellow. That was the Gemara's question.
And the difference being that this other guy who's Tole, is Naziris on the woman.
On her, that doesn't take
That
effect.
never
Does he
took
doesn't
place
become
'cause it never
That's one
came
side.
to front.
right. That's one side. The other side is it came to front and hers became her opa. So it can't happen, and his is going to be nitzvah, and then hers is going to go off. His doesn't go off. So the Gemara brought her a few proofs. So far, the Gemara knocked it off, and even the last proof, the Gemara what it says, so it says both ways. The Brisa says both ways. It says one version about not happening, preventing it at all. That the mikvah, the parallel to the mikvah would be that the mikvah does not allow the tumah to happen, and that's not true. The mikvah doesn't stop that. The other version was that the mikvah doesn't help. That after it becomes tumah, it should automatically become Torah. That's not either way. But as far as Rebbe Lezer, we have two. They're by themselves. They don't know what Rebbe Lezer held. So we still don't know what Rebbe Lezer held. And now the Gemara finds what Rebbe Lezer held. Tashma, Amalan Rebbe Lezer, Umas Roim Tameim, Chivin Shazorin Bekakatorin, Zeruin, Vaomdim, Lokolshkin. Rebbe Lezer brought a different couple homer. If you have seeds that are tamei, and you planted them, they become Torah. Did you know that?
You have what?
You have seeds. Call it it becomes Torah.
What is rowing? Is that part of the pasuk or what is it?
No, there's no pasuk here. Zram Tameim, Kivin
Taharim.
Shazarim, Taharim.
Mhm.
The tamei seeds, once you plant it in the ground, they become Torah. That's a fact. Zuan va'omdim lakolshkein. So if they were already planted, it means that the tumah touched it after they were planted, which we call mechuber always. if Tuma touches something mechuber, if mechuber means if wheat is growing, if there's an apple growing on a tree, and that sheretz touches it, does it become tamei? No, mechuber doesn't become tamei. How do you know mechuber doesn't become tamei?
Oh, what?
How do you know?
How do you know it doesn't become?
How do you know
tamei?
mechuber doesn't become tamei? Because of this reason. Because it says in the pasuk that if something which was tamei was planted, it becomes Torah. This is the Kal Vachomer itself. This is the Kal Vachomer. If something which was tamei becomes Torah by planting it, so something which was already planted, and then it got in contact with the Torah, surely doesn't become tamei. And that's Rabbi Elazar's proof to say the same thing. If it cures, Kal Vachomer it prevents. Same thing as before, but here talking about Zroim. Before it's talking about a mikvah. The one that said mikvah is different, but here he says Zroim. When you planting into the ground, that it's over there, it does work. The Kal Vachomer is true that if it's able to cure the tumah,
Planting it in the ground cures the tumor.
so surely
If it was already in the ground and it became tumor,
it doesn't become tamei. That it
That
doesn't
doesn't
become
become
tamei. And over there, that's the words of Rabbi Elazar. And now we're going to take over. Does that mean that it becomes tamei for a second and then it gets tahor? Or no, mechuba doesn't get tamei? Which way do you understand? By the plant, by something which is planted, it doesn't become tamei at all. It's not vulnerable to
Right.
tumah. So that's it. Shaminalo chaylen. So you see,
No
Rabbi
chaylen.
Elazar's drasha was to say that it doesn't take effect at all.
I don't understand the Chavakon one, because with the seeds, when it comes out, the wheat afterwards, it's a different product, so a whole different seed.
They even talk about if it's how do they call that? What a kayam? What's it?
What?
Well, it's not in color. Even in color. Thank you. Even if you have something that doesn't disintegrate, you have an onion.
Wow.
It doesn't disintegrate. A wheat maybe is an example of zarakol that disintegrates, and then it's not here anymore.
Lions are.
But even thing which is in zarakol, like an onion, also once you plant it and it takes root, it doesn't. If the tumor goes off,
Take a tummy onion,
And
put
you
it in the
plant it in the
ground, and
ground.
now it's,
and I think you have to wait till it takes root,
and takes root,
and
and
now
then
it's torn.
It's the
So you can pull it out
same
and
one.
it's the same money.
Pull it out, is it? Torn.
That's
So
that makes
So if you planted wheat, and how does wheat become tummy in the ground? Ever? I'm saying a Kal Vachomer.
a sheretz with that.
sense.
It's growing. It's growing. Growing wheat, and a sheretz touches it, or a person
Doesn't have
touches
to
it.
be wet.
Even if it becomes wet, whatever. It doesn't have. You can't make it tummy. It's safe as long as this mechuber doesn't become tummy. It doesn't become muksher. It doesn't become tummy. You're right. It doesn't become muksher either.
It never becomes tummy.
Till it's detached. As long as it's attached to the ground, it doesn't become tummy. And how do you know? Because
If it was tummy, already it was tummy, and
And you
it's not
planted
tummy,
it.
then for sure, while it's there,
right.
it can't.
This is the chiddush. I never knew this. This is the way you know that mechuber is not makabel tumah. The rush shows it over here. This is the way you know it from. Here's the rush. Where is the rush?
What are the Chachamim adding to our the idea of Rabbi Eliezer?
I'll wait a second. I just want to show this rush over here. It's here in my print. There's 3 lines from the bottom. The had the kaimalan. There it is.
What's the bold?
The bold.
The roasted tables.
Where?
Tashma Amru Lahu.
Oh, well, you don't have the same print as I do?
No,
Fancy, we have a fancy Gemara.
okay.
That's probably.
Tashma, Amulu Abulaza, Tashma.
Yeah.
Amma,
Tashma.
by me it's not bold. Amma Lu Abulaza, Vazram, Heshalem Abulaza, Shemasinu, Shadan Kavachomer, Kiahid Nedarim. You do have such a Kavachomer is right. If it cures, it surely prevents. Oh, the kind of this realms woman and Makablam Tuma, Lo Ase Elamai Kavachomer. The only way you know that something is not Makablam Tuma when it's Mechuber is because it's Kavachomer. That if it was already Tameh, you're able to make it by planting it.
Very good. It sounds like the Chachamim are taking Rabbi Eliezer's side of this.
Well, this is talking over here.
Oh, is it Rabbi Eliezer?
He's taking his own side.
He's saying his own side.
Yeah, he's saying that this is a source for what I'm saying. That whatever. Allah's probably an outline. Can let's go to the Mishnah if you want. Probably.
Chachamim didn't know what.
What's up? All right. Deserves it.
Yeah, ain't a muffy. You see over there, ain't a muffy. That's the doesn't work. But that's going to Abulaza. But they're going to say that it doesn't work. But that's one of the according to Abulaza that it does work. How does it work? Does it work that it doesn't take effect at all, or does it work that as soon as it comes, it gets eaten up? And then we finished with Sugya. We came out Shramin Lo Chaylen. That Abulaza, when he says that if it could cure, it could prevent. It prevents that it shouldn't take effect at all. And this person who was matfis in her Nedarim and Zed Bani, he's not a Nazir because her Nazirus was not a Nazirus either.
But for a split second, if it went the
Yeah.
other way, then it would have.
Then it would be, but it's
then it would-
not.
Yeah, and how do we, but how do we know that we compare it to Israel?
Because we see where Belazar held. The Belazar compared to Israel.
He compared it to Israel.
Yeah, he
so
said
that's
my
what- that's what he-
Kavachomer is good Kavachomer, the same way by Israel it is, that you see that
I
it
see.
could take off the tumor, surely it doesn't happen tumor. So you see, and so too by the
I
Doran,
see.
if he could take
Our
off the
Rebbe
nether,
was
surely he
very
could make it prevent that it shouldn't happen in the first place.
Okay.
So that's what Belazar held, that doesn't even take effect. And like him, they're one an argument say that you cannot be made for another at all before it happens. You have to, it has to happen first. And not wants to know, isn't this svara right? Rabbanan lo dashi kavachomer. Rabbanan done all of this
It's a
kavachomer.
question?
Yes. We finished the sugi before, and now the question is, Rabbanan don't agree. It's a great kavachomer.
Mhm.
Rabbanan lo dashi kavachomer. The Gemara is going to bring a similar kavachomer and a different subject altogether.
And
to
show that
see
they
that
hold.
the svara is right. But Tanya, I might think that a person could sell his daughter after she's already a gedola. She's already 12 years old. And
After
the,
she,
and the Bryce says, no, cannot. I'm a Kavachomer. There's a Kavachomer that he cannot. What's the Kavachomer? If she's already sold, the father was able to sell her as a ketana. The Chiyim Torah Ish has been told Loma that he could sell his daughter as a ketana. But once she becomes a gedola, she goes free, she goes out. So if she was already sold as a ketana, when she becomes a gedola, she goes out. So the Kavachomer that he can't sell her as a gedola, the godless, her maturity was enough to take her out of being already a Amavriya. So surely it stops her that she should not become a Amavriya. So don't you see that the logic is a good logic?
Yeah.
A girl who's sold as a 10-year-old, the father sold her. So when
the Nara,
when she
who's the Nara? The
Nara.
Nara is young.
Nara
It's
means
under
adult.
12. Under 12.
Nara means 12.
Oh,
There's a Ketana, a Nara, and a Bulgaris.
oh, I'm sorry.
Ketana is before godless. Now we call 12 years old. She also has to have 2 years. 2 pubic years, that makes her a
There's a
Gedola.
katana,
Ketana and a Gedola.
yeah.
And Gedola we call a Nara. Nara
What's
is
the
the Gedola.
Bulgaris?
The Bulgaris is 12 and a half. 6 months later, that she becomes,
And the Nara is,
Nara is
12
12 until 12 and a half.
yeah,
For 6
okay.
months. For 6 months, she's a Nara.
Okay.
So as far as it goes far, the ESC, they want to agree to this far that if it's pure, the adulthood, her adulthood cures her servitude. So surely it prevents her servitude. That's the Raisa. So same thing as our subject. If the Hafar is able to cure the nether, it's surely able to prevent it. So they want you to agree to the svara. It's a good svara. And that was happy.
What's the,
He's
what's the
also
Kal
happy.
Vachomer? What's the Kal Vachomer?
Kavachomer is that a girl who
He
was
sold her when?
he sold her when she's
Nara.
can he sell her as a Nara? Can he sell her as a 12-year-old? She's 12-year-old, he wants to sell her.
Okay.
So can he? No, definitely not. Because even if she would have been sold as an 11-year-old, when she becomes 12, her bas mitzvah frees her from servitude. So surely, being bas mitzvah, she's already bas mitzvah. Surely you cannot sell her.
Once she goes out of being,
If she goes out of being a maid servant because of her adulthood, her 12th birthday takes her out of servitude. So surely it stops her from becoming into servitude.
I'm missing the words here. What, is it, you read?
But without the words is good. Without the words is good.
Okay, without the words, what is it?
That the girl who was sold into slavery
When she
was
was-
servitude, and she was a ketana,
Yeah.
which father has the right to do that.
Yeah,
When
when
she becomes a gedola,
it's off,
it goes off.
Yeah.
So surely, if she's a gedola, you cannot sell her.
yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
And I will see it in the words. I might think that a person can sell his daughter when she's a gedola.
Mhm.
No, I'm a couple chomer. There's a couple chomer to show that it's not true. If she's already sold, she
If
goes
she's
out.
already sold
Right.
as a young girl,
Yotza, she goes out when she becomes an adult.
I see.
So Ena Mechura, and she was not sold. Ena Din Shaloti Mocha, isn't it the Kavachomer that she cannot be sold?
Uh-huh.
So you see, the svara is good. So here too, the svara is good, and he should not be able. His afara should be able to take effect before the fact. If it's enough to take off the nether after the fact, it surely should be able to prevent it before the fact. If my answer is yes, well, we said it right away in the Mishnah. You're right. This svara makes a lot of sense. Yes, but generally they do all the kavachomer. The kavachomer makes a lot of sense. But here's the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Yishayi kemenu, Yishayi femenu." Shani yachad, Omar Kra, Yishayi kemenu, Yishayi femenu. Which what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah said, but it's very nice svara. But the pasuk compares both to each other. That the fact that he could affirm the nether and he could nullify the nether is compared in the same pasuk, and it goes together. You only could be made for something which he's mekayim. which he could be Makayim. Esher Ba'alafal Hakim Ba'alafal Hafer, another which he could affirm, he could nullify. Esher Ba'alafal Hakim, Lo Ba'alafal Hafer, another which cannot be affirmed, cannot be nullified. And since a person cannot affirm the neder before the fact, and that Mishnah doesn't say why. The Russia's the reason is because he doesn't know what she's going to say, and it's always considered a hakim the toast, hakam of the toast, because he doesn't know what she's going to say. Whatever reason, since he cannot he cannot affirm before she makes the neder. So too she cannot nullify before, even though this far is a nice Torah, but the pasuk compares them, and the pasuk is telling us it doesn't work. So hakim not, and therefore hafer also not. End of this one. We're already at more than a half a daf ahead, so we don't want to get too much ahead. So let's stop here.
Good.
Thank you.
If you want to use a mega analogy, let's say like somebody has a valve disease in the heart valve. So they get in the blood, they get endocarditis. So that's why before they have dental work, they give penicillin to prevent the bacteria from attaching to the valve. So there, even though if they have endocarditis, antibiotics will cure it. After it takes 6 weeks, they can prevent it by giving antibiotics before. But that doesn't work for everything. Let's say somebody has cancer, the chemotherapy might cure the cancer, but they can't give the chemotherapy won't prevent the cancer.
So you're saying that there are two kinds. The two
Yeah.
sometimes yes, sometimes not.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, I want you to have
So
a
as I said, in the
and don't get
halakha,
sick.
COVID, I think they were-
in the halakha, sometimes it depends on the cases. You can't compare one case to the other case.
So that's what comes out. And here's the reason because of what's that?
That was the Gemara's
That was the Gemara. The Rebbe is going to go to that case. So the Sikkum is very short that the husband cannot affirm her Nedarim before they happen, and that's muskam, that's agreed upon. And the focus was if he can
He cannot
affirm, he cannot affirm it before. And the focus is if he could nullify it, and it before the fact, and it comes out that everybody holds that in principle he should be able to. The Kalachama would be good that if he could nullify it after the fact, he surely could nullify it, prevent it, that it shouldn't happen, and that's the way Madgish that it shouldn't happen, and that's it shouldn't happen at all. And the only reason why I want to say that he cannot do it because of the pasuk that says it has to be affirmable. If it's not affirmable, it's not nullifiable.
What's the possible?
You show you can we show you
And the first the kima,
not first, but it goes together.
It's
The
essential.
only another which he could affirm can he nullify if he's prevented from
One that he can
affirming it.
affirm.
He cannot. Here he cannot affirm.
Oh, I see. And we don't say that. Okay, that pasuk takes care of it. That's why they argue with Rebbe also.
Right. Okay. Yes.
They also
go.
don't hold by the call home.
The Kalvachom would have been a good Kalvachom. Would have been a nice Kalvachom.
Oh, that's what we asked. Don't they hold by the call?
They do. They do.
would,
Kalvachom is good.
except that I see the pasuk overrides the call home.
Right. Yashikoach.